Good Friday morning, Market Chameleons, and everyone joining us for the first time. Thanks for coming to the Market Chameleon pre-market show with myself, Will McBride, and the main man, Dimitri Pargamonic. How you doing, Dima?
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Great. Do you want to start with the disclaimer? It's up there for everyone to see.
Yep. Good morning, everyone. Before we get started, keep in mind, Will and I, Market Chameleon, we're not registered investment advisors. We're not a broker dealer. We're not telling you what to do. We're just sharing ideas. If you need professional advice, call your registered investment advisor, call your broker. That's what they're there for, to give you advice, provide you with guidance. There's the disclaimer. And with that, let me share my screen here.
Excellent.
And
I don't know if anything's going on in any of the crypto space, but I was reading something about the global payment system, SWIFT, and it made me think, and we were, you and I, we talk about these things a little bit, but, it's really a case for altcoins, right? You see, and I'm listening, I'm totally on Ukraine's side. I'm not saying this because it's affecting Russia, but you can see how, a country want alternative methods to transact for goods and services, right? And we talked yesterday briefly about China wanted to transact oil in the yuan, right? It's really interesting.
In China, yeah. To see it, it's an interesting. Well, before we get to that discussion, just so if anybody's joining us right now for the first time, if we're open up for questions. So if you guys have any questions, it could be regarding Market Chameleon tools, data analytics, strategies you'd like to discuss. You could put those in the live chat. Will's monitoring them. He'll read it back to me. Or if you want to ask your question directly, we put out a link to Zoom. Click on that link. It takes you over to Zoom. You could click on raise your hand. You don't have to turn on your video camera, but you'll come on live, ask your question directly. I think that benefits the entire community. Just wanted to get that out. So while we're discussing, anybody with a question can put it in there. And while we're waiting for it to queue up, we'll go over the pre-market report and maybe discuss a little bit about, some of the ways that, or changes that we might see in the global economy as a result of what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, right? Like some of the maybe perhaps changes in maybe, certain industries that might benefit from it going forward. And I think that the global payment system itself might be impacted for various reasons. So I'm going to start, maybe we'll touch on that because Will and I we were kind of talking about that early in the morning, and I mentioned an interesting article I read. It was on Bloom. I think it was either Wall Street Journal or Bloomberg, forget, but it was something with, why India might be moving away from the West. And they were talking about that SWIFT system. And I think it's an interesting perspective. And we could maybe discuss what industries might actually be benefactors from what we're seeing. How this kind of war in Ukraine and Russia, how it's being played out, and what are the weapons the different players are using, right? And one of them is the weapon is sanctions, and using SWIFT as a weapon, right? Is a weaponizing the global financial payment system. So let me just start out quickly, as usual, do the pre-market report. And if there are questions, I'll take those first. Well, okay.
Perfect.
Yep. So right now we're on a pre-market report, and these are stocks trading in the pre-market hours. These are actual trades happening. We have the most active stocks, biggest percentage gainers, biggest percentage decliners. Here I see 42 stocks made our percentage gainers list, 95 on a percentage decliners. So from that perspective, we're looking like we're setting up for more bearish bias at the open. I'm going to filter out this list to look at just S&P 500 stocks to see if we see a similar situation there. And to do that, I'm going to use the filters above. And by using this filter in ETF, I have a drop down. I can select an ETF and select SPY. That's S&P 500 ETF. And this filters out SPY holdings. And here I see 3 made our percentage gainers list, 10 on the decliners list. So not a huge list, but it does look right now like we're setting up for more bearish bias at the open. While we're waiting for any questions to queue up, I might go to SPY, but in the meantime, just to mention, the article and what we're talking about with the global payment system. And I think that actually Kathy Woods was making some of this argument, and a lot of people actually in Silicon Valley, and they're investing heavily in this blockchain technology. And the blockchain technology is basically a decentralized system of the ability, you don't need, it's not by permission. It's not like you have to open up an account with like Goldman Sachs or Merrill Lynch, or it's a decentralized system of being able to move digital assets or currencies, right? They're digital currencies. And I think China's talking about developing their own digital currency. America's talking about developing their own digital currency. A lot of countries are looking at it. And I think the blockchain technology kind of showed the way. The Bitcoin showed the way. And it could be a benefactor here because you're seeing that, as mentioned in the article, Europe and America might be celebrating how well their sanctions are working. Blocking Russia from the global payment system and like crashing their currency. But I think history shows in any war, what happens is that then other players make observations of what were the weapons used and how did they protect themselves in the future. And then, and that's part of what right now, even and who's observing it, you see China looking at what's going on, obviously Russia, there are other countries out there, watching this and saying, well, how do we protect ourselves? And one of the benefactors, I think, could be the blockchain. Obviously, like cybersecurity, is going to be another one. I think that's going to be that we're seeing a lot of cyber attacks. You hear them, about them. I think Anonymous is attacking like Russian, institutions. So cybersecurity, I think, will be definitely something that people are going to start investing in heavily. But even the blockchain technology might be, something that more and more people start actually looking at and taking, making bigger investments in it. What do you think, Will?
I completely agree with you. It's going to be really interesting how things change over the next couple of years. And listen, both China and Russia have been looking for years to try to get the world on something other than the dollar in trade. And so this situation the whole world has seen how fast an economy can be shut down. And it seems like a good reason to do it, but it puts one. I don't know. It's really interesting. It does certainly add to the thesis that crypto producers, players, participants have been saying for years, right? I mean, this is part of their whole thinking, is that a free system that, the rules are written, everyone knows them and they can't be changed. The code is the law is interesting.
Right.
And it's definitely working, right? I mean, that's the thing. People are transacting every day in most of these currencies.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like, what is there going to be the reaction, because we've seen historically, that anytime there was a war and you see new weapons, then other countries develop weapons to counter those weapons. Right. And whether it be whatever nuclear weapons or blitzkrieg strategies or whatever it is, you know, when they use gas weapons, everybody then went and said, that we're going to have a stockpile of poisonous gas. If you use it on us, we're going to use it on you. So that how is going forward, how's the world going to adjust? What is China going to be doing going forward? All these other countries that are out there know that now, there's this, I think it was a pretty effective weapon, right? Kicking them off, because they said that the economy is in Russia, the ruble collapsed. They shut them out. They can't, I think that they can't, access their reserves and
and listen, it probably led to all the, like, Starbucks, McDonald's, all those companies leaving. Part of it was probably the fact that this system was shut down to them. Now, if they would stayed there, right?
Yeah,
they wouldn't have been able to pay their bills. It would have been a nightmare. Easier to look like you're on the side of good than
right, because what happens is, regular people, they can't use their credit cards, right? They can't make payments. They're any type of commerce is shut down, and and I'm assuming that other people are watching, paying attention, and they're going to say, well, what are they going to do going forward? And there might be changes, and I think that we'll see changes, because China certainly is watching this, and you could see that they're siding more with Russia right now. I would say they're trying to be neutral. Certainly they're neutral in the sense that they're not trying to battle with America, but it looks like they are siding right now more with Russia. And then you're seeing, like, India now have sympathies with Russia, and it's something to pay attention to. And I think, like, what cybersecurity, I think that the military defense is going to be a benefactor from this war. There's going to be more weapons now being produced and bought, and I think that another thing is going to be potentially is that blockchain. People don't know the blockchain, and you could go learn about it, but we have, and I've been thinking about this for a long time, just in the stock market, because we deal with stocks and the stock market, and New York and NASDAQ, and it doesn't make sense to me to stay on this legacy system if this blockchain technology is available. And you could compare it in the last 10 years, how it doesn't seem significant, because you're thinking, well, you're just moving coins around back and forth, buying them back and forth, but that's what the stock market is. But why is the stock market open from 9:30 to 4, like old bankers hours, right? Like 100 years ago, we're on the same hours, that were like New York Stock Exchange banker hours. Why aren't we trading 24/7? Like, if you could trade Bitcoin 24/7, why aren't we doing it on the stocks? Why can't people who have jobs from 9:30 to 4, why can't they just, either come home or do it on the weekend and be able to access the market and their money? Or why do we have like 2 days clearing where you could clear a transaction on blockchain within seconds? And why are we paying so much for clearing, right? Why are all these different, middlemen involved in all these fees? So I think that, and I think Kathy Wood was making that argument that we're looking at these legacy systems, financial legacy systems, and the brick and mortar. And if you're looking at the blockchain, as long as they don't make it illegal, I think that we will see a lot of changes, going forward in our financial system. It'll probably be as disruptive as the internet. What do you think?
I think you're right. You just mentioned something that made me think right away when you said they make it illegal, right? Obviously, for America, it would not be beneficial if everyone chose to use some sort of crypto instrument to transact.
Right.
So
maybe not, unless they figure it out. They're trying to figure it out. Like, well, what if we made a digital dollar? What they're trying to figure it out. and I don't think America right now, I mean, they don't know, right? They don't want to, I don't know if they want to make it illegal and say, well, we're going to miss out on this disruptive technology that has a lot of benefits, because, they might lose out because Europe will take the lead, or somewhere else around the world. So far they want to regulate it, but I don't know if they want to ban it.
Yeah,
That's my take.
I would agree with you. We did have a question from Rob, which
Yeah.
is kind of related. He was saying, Will and Dimitri, I'm wondering what your opinion is on the Chinese stocks. Would either of you dip your toe in the water and purchase some? And obviously we don't give advice like that, but I'm just telling you, I see what happened to the RSX, the Russian ETF. I would be very nervous about buying anything in China myself. I know it looks like a screaming buy, but that's my opinion.
Those Chinese stocks got hit so hard. I think that they might have gone back down to 2008 levels, even below.
I think, yeah.
And I think with China, part of it is that whatever's going on there in their country with regulation, and they're coming after a lot of companies, and they're trying to look at companies that collect a lot of data, and they're focused on those technology companies, but that economy's very control, the government's very involved, right? And the regulations are still uncertain, and they're issuing lots of penalties there. Whatever's going on, people are nervous. In addition to that, I think then the people started to realize there might be a risk that some of these companies listed on the U.S. exchange might get delisted, right? They're not going to allow them to trade their stock here, and that's a little bit scary, because then what are your rights? You're not sure. You're not going to be able. You own this paper, and you don't know if you'll be able to sell it, buy it. Is there a market for it? And what are your rights to this paper? Do you feel confident you could go to China and sue for your rights?
100% no, I don't.
Right. What do you really what do you own here? What are your rights to this paper? What are what are the assets that and some of these ADRs, you have to pay attention to them, because you don't own shares in the company. You kind of own the right to earnings into the company. You have to take a look at it, because there's special structures. You got to really figure out what you own. It looks like some of it looks like a screaming buy. If there were U.S. companies, you would be buying, right? But you have those risks, the geopolitical risks. You have to take those into consideration, because there are good companies. And when you look at, here I was looking at Baidu, I think it was up almost 50% from the 52 low. Alibaba, not only are they good companies, they have very good technologies behind them, right? Like proprietary technology, very good technologies behind, just like, Google and Apple and Facebook. Part of their values, what's behind the hood. So they have the same thing here. But again, it's I'm not sure, that we've never faced that situation before, where there was a mass delisting of every company because they came from one region. I haven't seen that before. I've seen, stocks get delisted for different reasons, but not because, all these Chinese companies have to get delisted from the exchange.
Yeah, and they didn't delist them, but we just saw we've never seen anything like what happened to the Russian market, right? That's the first foreign traded market where, companies were listed in the US and in London, and there were products that were tradable, like the RSX, ETFs, and they literally went to zero. Almost overnight.
Yeah, I don't know, right? I don't know exactly. I don't know if they're going to have any value at some point, because if Putin, says that you're not allowed to move and no company in Russia can move money outside of Russia, then you don't have any rights to those earnings, right? Then what is your paper worth? What are
Well,
your
literally what Putin did, I mean, those companies are now being nationalized, right? That's what they're
yeah,
talking about. And the same
yeah,
thing could happen in China. I mean, Baidu could no longer be a publicly traded company. It could be run by, the Chinese
yeah.
government. Chinese government could declare ownership, right?
I feel like that's the way that's what the worries started. That's why their stocks just kept plummeting. Right now, they're reversing because I they're feeling the impact right in China. Their markets are crashing. The people are losing lots of money down there. So they said that they're going to come out there to defend it and buy the stocks, maybe ease some of the regulations. That we saw a big pop, but that was the worry, I think, there. Well, where's this heading to? Is the government just going to basically control these companies?
It's certainly a risk. Certainly a risk.
Yeah.
We did have a question also from Bob related to, or Rob, excuse me, to the pre-market. He's
Yep.
like, is there any way to track the pre-market over the course of the day to see if stocks were up, remain up, or if they were down, remain down, or what happens to them?
Yeah, so if we go to I'm going to go to the screener here under screener stocks. That's a good question. I had a similar question like that over the email, but I'm on the stock screener here, and I think under technical, right? So under the technical tab here, we keep track of how the stock is performing relative to different benchmarks. And here we could see this here tracks what was the gap in the morning, right? So here, for example, Apple in the very morning gap down 0.6%, right? So that was the opening trade. It was gap down. And after the morning, how did it tend? What did it do the rest of the day? And this keeps track of it from that opening price. So you could see from the opening price, and this will update right now, updated, to the close. We're not open yet, so this is yesterday's data, but this keeps track of what the stocks are doing from the opening price. So if you wanted to see, let me see here. Let me find the. I haven't used this in a while, so let me bear with me. But I know here, so percentage from open. So if I could just take a look and say, hey, show me stocks that gap down, more than 5%. So now, oh, sorry, that's changed from the open. This is the opening jump. This is the opening gap. So show me stocks that gap down 5% yesterday. Right. So now I got stocks that are in the morning, they're down more than 5%. So you can see here, I got the list this is yesterday's list. We got 248 stocks, gap down more than 5%. And here I could see what they're doing from that price. So gap down 11%, but from the opening, rallied 7.8%. So you could see it's still down on the day, but from the opening price, it rallied. And you could kind of even look at that. If I wanted to look at stocks that gap down 5% and just show me the stocks that started rallying from there, by, I don't know, at least 1%. So now I could see where these stocks gap down 5% and people started buying the dip, right? In other words, after the opening, they started to rally. So now I have a list of stocks that basically gap down. People use that as an opportunity to buy that dip and push the prices higher from the open. Does that help? Like that screen?
Rob, does that screen that Dimitri just showed help you? Just let us know.
Yep. So that's basically using the filters. That's that's the story that I was looking at. And of course I could reverse those filters or do whatever, or add filters to it. But basically I use the filters to look for, buying the dip, we could say. So we're right at 9:25. If there are no questions, well, just leave it there. Let me see. I did want to actually, let me go to SPY real quick. I did want to show another thing. Under volatility, we're looking at risk premium. And here, this is a chart of the risk premium, and I could change these parameters. So the default is it's looking at a 30-day at the money put, right? So 30 days to maturity, constant maturity, and at the money put, which would here, you can see the last premium was 2.3%. So in other words, you'd pay 2.3% of the stock price to protect your downside position for 30 days. You can see that's how it's been, popping up and down, very volatile just in the put alone. And you can see it came down a lot from here, from 3.3 down right now to 2.3. But I see these pops, it came down and popped back up. So there's a volatility in the volatility, itself. It's moving around. We're still above the average. Let's take a look at an out of the money put. So this is a put, let's say 5% out of the money. I'm reloaded. So similar situation there, doing the same thing, but you could see there right now, cost you 1.1% of the stock price to protect your position. That's below that when the stock, if it falls more than 5%. All right. And you could say here, you could change it to 90-day maturity 120. We could do the same thing for reverse calls. But this is one place where you could just kind of take a look at what are the premiums doing and where have they been recently, right? And you see here, like I have two peaks here, but each time it's getting higher. So it's showing me the volatility of the volatility is high. It's moving up and down really quick, but it's still climbing. And one more thing here, downside put volume. So this is looking at yesterday's downside puts. So these are stocks that are protecting anything for correction from here, anywhere between 10 and 20% below today's price and 20% below. So just basically, I need to protect myself from a crash 20% below. And we see here, $50 million worth of correction puts traded yesterday, $15 million worth of crash puts traded, which this one's below the 20-day average. This one's a little bit below 20-day average. We're up yesterday, maybe it eased off, but versus the 52-week, trading, it's still high, 94th percentile, 91st percentile in those puts. All right, we're right up at 9:30. I think we covered a lot today. Hopefully,
another great show. D-Rob was very thankful for the description of the screener. He hadn't seen that before. Super helpful. Great show. Awesome. You have a great weekend, my friend.
Thanks everyone for joining. Thanks. Well, you have a great weekend too, guys. Stay safe out there. Have a great trading day, and we hope to see you on Monday.
Have a great trading day, communities. We'll see you on Monday. Enjoy this great basketball tournament that's going on right now. We didn't even mention that. Some great upsets. All right, D. We'll talk Monday. Right. Have a great day.
Bye.